everyone, and welcome to the OnlyLandFans show. My name is Kendall Lejeune, and our guest today is Trevor Probandt. Fifth-generation Texas rancher and third-generation land investor, Trevor Probandt was born and raised on a cattle and sheep ranch outside of San Angelo, Texas. He is a full-time investor who focuses on value-add plays and is working almost exclusively on market deals. Trevor's family has bought and sold over 50,000 acres of land since the early 1990s. Trevor, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Good, man. Doing awesome. Actually, I'm in Blue River, Colorado. My wife and two kids came up here for a month, so we're getting out of the Texas heat.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, Texas is I'm in the Austin area right now, and it is just baking right now in the sun. So I definitely get that. I hope you have an incredible time in that cooler weather, man.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, it's been great. I did a Leadville marathon up here, and I'm not a runner, but I set a goal for myself in January and ended up doing it. So that was awesome. And then we just been hanging out. But yeah, I grew up on a cattle ranch outside of San Angelo, Texas, in Tom Green County. Went to a little bitty school. There's 30 people in my grade. Like it's small school, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, but grew up on 4,800 acres. Used to have a bunch of country west of Angelo. Then in 92 or 93, my family did 1031. And then in 91, I think, is when they kind of first got big into buying and subdividing, right? And so our whole family's deal has been buy by the ranch and sell it by the pasture. And why that is because, unfortunately, the ability to produce a living income through animal husbandry, meaning raising stock, is just about disappeared. So what these ranches, these big ranches and things like this were made for, they were corporations or businesses that families used, right, to pay for their wages and things like this. I still remember when I was 12 or 13 and we were shipping calves, and anybody knows what that's about. It's in the fall, you ship calves and you send them to market and everything. Anyway, I was sitting there and I was like, Papa, I was talking to my grandfather who was still alive. I was like, when could you not make a living ranching anymore? And he sits there and kind of looks about it and he goes, well, see that pickup and trailer over there hauling those calves off. He goes, I used to be able to take that trailer of calves and pay for that pickup and have money over. He goes, now I have to take 3 trailer loads of those calves to maybe pay for that pickup. So as a primary producer, the valuation as a primary producer, or at least in ranching country, things like this, maybe not in the Midwest with farming and some of this stuff, but as far as ranching country, it decoupled. The price for that kind of stuff decoupled a long time ago when it came to agriculture. Now it's all recreational usage, right?
Yep.
So at least what I specialize in is 10 acres and above residential lots, and then up to 2, 3, 4, 500 acre recreational hunting properties. Okay. So that's what I do. I take big ranches and subdivide them. A lot of people say, oh, that's terrible. Well, guess what? I'm part of that family, right? I understand exactly. We've had to sell off part of our stuff just because it didn't make sense, right? Like the financially doesn't make sense.
Right.
So what's interesting though is when people are like, well, you are a land fragmenter. You don't believe in this. I can't believe you took all this history of this place and everything else. Well, guess what? They used to be giant ranches at one time. And every time a new generation comes through, it gets subdivided. And every time it comes through, it gets subdivided again. And here's one thing that nobody understands. If I can't buy 3,000 acres as a normal human being, right, in Texas, right, 3,000 acres, especially even in West Texas, that's multiple millions of dollars, right? Much less anything around Austin.
Right.
So, yeah. but if I can come in and buy 200 or 300 acres or 400 acres, I will care more about that 200, 300, 400 acres, that little small chunk of what that might have been 2,000 acres. They will care more for it and put more resources towards that than they ever did in 4,000 acres. You just can't. And so the actual utilization and the production on most of that country is actually higher than when it was a big place. And that's something people have no concept or understanding of that.
Yeah, that you said so many incredible things in that, and just kind of like talking us through a little bit of your history. But the thing that stuck out the most to me is that you are coming from a position where your family business really had to pivot, right, in order to be able to survive. And
Yep.
so, from a business owner and entrepreneur, I can understand that. I respect that so much. And so, talk to us a little bit about what that pivot was like. Talk to us about what the process was like, what types of mindset shifts you had to go through in order to make that change.
Well, and I can't speak for like my family, right? Like that's just something that made sense to them, one way or other. But here's my problem. I want to be an orthopedic surgeon, right? I didn't want to do this kind of stuff. I went to school at Texas Tech. I followed everything, took my MCATs, got into two schools that weren't the best schools. That was my fault because I didn't. Anyway, long story short, I filled in all my paperwork on the deadline. Well, everyone else has already filled out their classes. Anyway, long story short, ended up not doing that. And then I got into real estate and I was like, well, all the rich people use, they own apartment complexes, they own commercial deals. I was like, I don't want to do land, right? Like
Right.
that's not what rich people do. And it took me, unfortunately, right? And I had put a little money here and there with my dad and uncle, when I was still working. I was actually working in the oil field I wasn't one of the owners, but like the right hand man, a company that we started with 6 of us and we ended up with like 210 of us. Right.
Wow.
Like, so we had this explosive growth on the road all the time, airplanes, building relationships with these high level corporations, all this other stuff. And so I was too damn busy. I had kids and wife and everything else. And so in 2015 or maybe it's 14, is when my dad and uncle, they got done doing a deal. We put a little money with them. And he's like, man, we got to go find another one. And I was like, well, why can't we do like cash flow off of land? Right. And he goes, well, they've been doing that in West Texas since dirt was new. Right. And because they keep selling the same dirt to new people all the time, right, with the owner finance stuff. And so that's when I went on this rabbit hole of Googling, hey, how do you owner finance land? And found what was it, Mark Podolsky, right? And you start kind of diving through some of that stuff. And I spent a couple of years and bought a bunch of notes or bought a bunch of properties and turned them into notes and everything. And finally I was like, why the hell am I doing this? Like it just,
Right.
I was always too smart, right? For my own good when it came to this. I was like, why don't I just do what Dad and Ed, which is my uncle, like, why don't just do that, right? And just bring kind of the new way of doing it, right? Where it wasn't just hey, it's just whatever we got in our pocket that we can do on these kind of deals, because they never did multiple deals per year, right? Like they did a deal a year and they made good money. They still had regular jobs, but they made, I mean, they paid for all of our college. They paid for all, you know what I mean? Like they had unbelievable deals. And I was like, Dad, why don't y'all like take this big? And then they were just like, no, right? Grew up on a ranch, hardworking, go to church, save your money. You know what I mean? And I don't know if it was fear of competition or whatever it is, but it's just a different mindset, right? A little older, they're both 60 plus and things like that. And so they're not real big internet guys and stuff. And so, it's an interesting thing, like that mindset. They knew that they had to do something else, and it's what they knew, right? And so it still allows you to kind of be part of it, even if it's a little different than, because almost everybody out here, they'd love to throw their legs over a horse and make a ton of living, like the Duttons or somebody else. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
work that way. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of my deal. Like, just work with what you know. And this is kind of what I know.
I love that. And something else that just stuck out to me was just the, making something old a little bit new. Like, what is that innovation? How can you put a spin on it to make it yours and make it work for you, right? And so,
Absolutely.
can you talk to us a little bit about what types of deals, you mentioned it earlier, but what
Yep.
types of deals do you specialize in now?
Yep. Again, recreational usage. That's going to be big, especially in Texas, hunting, right? Texas, Oklahoma, A lot of the Southeast states, things like that. That's going to be a huge deal. And so our whole deal again is to make unaffordable land affordable, right? Trophy places, live water places, $10 million views, things like this that are going to be bought up by rich people. The non-trophy assets, the plain Jane dirt out there, right? The prices have gone up so high on the price per acre. A lot of places it's unaffordable for people to buy, to use as leisure, right? It's not production. There's no money off of it one way or other. So what I do is I take a $3 million property and I make it worth 5.5, but I turn them into $500,000 or less parcels. And one of the main reasons that we do that is because the underwriting, when it comes to the lenders on that, anything under $500,000, it's a 2-page underwriting deal, just like getting a car, right? If it's over $500,000, the loan itself is over $500,000. They do a full background, like financials, everything else like that. And so that's kind of where we want to be. And to be honest with you, with these interest rates, I'd much rather be in the $200,000, $300,000 price range.
That is fantastic. So walk us through a typical deal, for example.
Yep. Okay. I'll tell you one that we're closing right now. And this is actually the first one where we're doing smaller tracks. Okay. This is a deal we close on Wednesday. It's outside of College Station. It's 130 acres. It's about 22 minutes southwest of College Station, which is where Texas A&M University is at, right? If anybody knows, that place is blowing up. It's insane how many people are coming in, and the price per acre of anything right there is nuts. Just absolutely insane. Okay. This tract is 130 acres. It has, there's three things I look at, right? We look at access. The more paved road, the better. We look at power. The more power on the track, the better. And we look at water. It's got to have some sort of damn water, right? Whether that's rural water that's piped in or access as far as water wells. Okay. This has all three of them in spades. This is on a FM 60 that comes through on a College Station there. It's 130 acres. We're buying it for $1.2 million, right? We're also buying 50% of the minerals. There's one old well out there, and the guy wanted to sell it. I wanted all the minerals at 1.1. It was listed for 1.4. I was like, no. Anyway, we bought it. And the key to this is because we're also going to sell the mineral rights to the individual landowners, right? So it's going to turn into, I think, 10 tracks. They're going to average about 12 acres a piece. We're going to spend about $350,000 to $360,000 doing surveys, building brand new roads, running power, doing some cleanup, things like this. It's a beautiful property. It's got trees, it's got creek, it's got a little bit of everything. It's worth 2.6 then, right? And here's the thing about it. We buy everything. Not everything, but a lot of the stuff we do, we use leverage. So we have an 85% loan to value line. And then I also have an 85% loan to value on the $320,000 that we're going to use for the improvements. Okay. That allows me to take my ROI and shoot it through the roof.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're actually going to spend, I don't know, closer to $400,000 to make 1.6.
Wow. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
So, I mean, in this county, you don't have to go through the platting process. As long as it's coming in off the main road there, you're good. A lot of these counties, though, especially around Austin and up and down 35 and things like this, the old guard is still in charge when it comes to county commissioners, county judges, things like this. They do not want development. They do not want it. And so now they're coming up with rules and regs. And I literally talked to my engineer who's doing one of these today. And she's like, the gal that we had to check off with on another one, there's a 1,200 acre deal that's close to where I live. And we cut into 100-acre tracts. She goes, the gal that is in charge of all the septic and everything has no idea what she's doing. But she, like, it's insane what is going on right now with they're trying to stop everything they can, but no one has any understanding of what the hell is going on.
Wow, that sounds like a recipe for a lot of frustration.
Confusion, disappointment, anger.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Wow.
But again, these prices have gone up so high. And what the deal is say I am, Trevor Probandt, and I've owned this place in, I don't know, we're outside of Taylor, Texas, right? Northeast of town. They're blowing up left and right. And I've owned it forever. I'm 83 years old. I need to sell out. And if you make it so hard that I can't come in, or, anybody out here can't come in and bring it to a higher level, the valuation of my property, even though I've lived there forever and done all this other stuff, goes down. So we're seeing a big change across the board with these counties trying to stop us, our terrible land fragmenters. That is happening right now. And what the deal is they don't understand it, but it's going to take the valuations of those large tracts down 20 to 30%. So they're actually hurting their own constituents.
Right. Absolutely.
And you're just like, but people are afraid. People are concerned. I understand. A lot of people have done a very bad job of doing this stuff, right? We do everything above board. We bring county commissioners in. We bring judges in. We do everything else like this. We want good quality product for good quality people, right? But the bad thing is there's a bunch of bad actors in this game, and they could care less.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
That makes a lot of sense. And so let me ask you, what's the timeline on the project that you just mentioned?
To get it to sell or to close it out. I mean, who knows, right? Like with interest rates, they go to 12%. The nice thing about this is all these tracks are going to be $150,000 to $200,000, which is still affordable for that neck of the woods. We're still pricing our stuff probably 10% below what we think competition is, just for the speed of that. But most of these are going to take anywhere from a year to a year and a half from the time you buy it, jump through all the hoops, get everything done. Especially if you have a platting process, it can take 60, 90, 120 days.
Right.
Before you can even sell anything.
Right. So what type of, what's the level of development that you're doing on these lots? Are you actually going in and putting in infrastructure, or is it more of a paper subdivide? What type of things?
No, no, it's not a paper subdivide. We're building the roads. We're running the power. We're we can fence, we can drill water wells, things like this. The only thing is when I come in and say I want to fence it and I want to drill water wells and all this other stuff, especially larger tracks, and this is coming from my dad and them, they're like, just because you think it's the best place to put a house and it's going to be the best view doesn't mean that that's where they want it to be. And you can waste $30,000-$40,000 in capital expenditures for nothing.
Yeah, that's really good insight right there.
So this is another thing too. This is something that you should really think about, guys, is list it at the price raw land and then allow them to wrap in those improvements. So the money, especially with high interest rates, this is another thing, and this is something coming from a very good broker buddy of mine, and his dad and granddad and all of them have been brokers forever in 3 different states. He goes, this is the first time that he can ever remember, and he's been in it 17 years or whatever it is, because this is the first time that improved properties, so like high fence places, like really cleaned up, everything else like this is the first time they have outsold more blank slate properties. And why do you think that is?
Because people are ready, right?
Well, 1, they have no vision, but 2, it costs a lot of time, money, and effort to get all that stuff set up. And if they got to come out of pocket with it, they don't deem that as high value, especially with high interest rates, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you got to wait 6 months to get a water well drilled, like a bunch of these places are, right? So if it's already got the water well, I'm not saying you have to, but like if it's got cleaned up, ready to rock and roll, like it's almost like people with houses, right? Like you show them a junker house and they don't want to touch it, even if it's a good deal, right? Unless they're an investor.
Sure.
And so it's kind of the same way. So we're doing a better job of cleaning everything up, making it look nice. But I mean, it's really a blank slate if they want to come in and buy one or two or three or one way or other. But a lot of times what we're doing right now is we're wrapping in those improvements.
Yeah, that's smart. I think that would definitely open up the buyer pool as well, I would imagine.
Yep.
So let me ask you, Trevor, what was your very first land deal like? Do you remember it?
Yeah, it was actually in on the other side over here. It was in Park County, Colorado. It was some stuff that I had done, like, the whole send out mailer stuff.
Yep.
And then here and then in Coconino County, Arizona. And I still like doing some of those larger tracks and things like that. But like again, you couldn't believe it. Like you send letters out, and you're like, oh, well, this is silly. I don't think anyone's ever going to sign this stuff, right? And it was weird because the guy did not have a car. He like sent it back to me, he mailed it back to me, but he was like a fall down drunk. And so he got the guys that lived in the trailer next to him to drive him to the title company so I could buy the thing.
Wow.
And I didn't have any idea, right? Like I didn't, once I bought it, then I sent somebody out there to take pictures, and there was like an old trailer house, just stuff everywhere. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm so screwed. Right. And then, so it took great pictures. I mean, the great pictures of shit, but like, it was great pictures. And the guy, and I posted it, it was outside of Snowflake, Arizona. And I guess it's a pretty hot place. And I posted it. I bought it for like $5, and I posted it for like 15, and phone just melted. And this is when Craigslist and everything was going big, just blew up, and I made like 8-10 grand or something like that on the deal. And I was just like, holy crap, this is the best thing ever.
I want to do all of them.
Yeah, I want to do all of these. And then you get into the whole balance there, right? When you're talking about owner financing and the cost of capital and things like that. And so that was one of those deals. I was like, man, I can do this. I don't like this nearly as much as I like talking to people about hunting properties.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of
And
sense.
that's really like, and I've got my own real estate license, and so I get paid to buy stuff. I get paid to sell stuff. I list my own stuff a lot of times, or I get a percentage off of that. Like, yeah, I think I made like $87,000 this month just on commissions, right? And so that, instead of trying to force yourself to do stuff, like I have no desire to have 15 VAs and to do all this stuff. I'm not a volume person. I'd much rather go after the big fish, right? Even if it takes a little longer to catch them. That's just me.
Yeah, no, I love that because it sounds like what your lane is and what you like doing, and you lean into it, and then it doesn't feel like, you're fighting the resistance or anything like that. So
For sure.
let me ask you this. That first lot, what do you remember what size it was?
40 acres.
Got it. So going from that 40 acres, which by the way, 40 acres for what did you say, $5,000?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It
that's
was, but
incredible.
again, it was 2015 or whatever it was, right? Like, yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
wow. So doing a deal where, it's relatively low market value to
yep.
jumping into these, million dollar, multi-million dollar deals, that had to have been met with some type of at least caution or
Yep.
anxiety a little bit. So talk to us about that. What was that transition like moving into larger deals?
Well, here's the thing. That's what you got to understand about this. Like, it's a team sport, right? Like, no one does these by themselves. And if they are, I mean, they may be, but for the most part, you got a banker, you got a surveyor, you got an appraiser, you've got investors, I mean, there's so many, you got brokers, you got all this other stuff. So actually doing a lot of these big deals, I sleep better on them than I do buying my first smaller property in a market I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's the deal. And here's kind of a rule of thumb that we play with all the time is if you can add 50% or more per acre, meaning if I can buy it for and I can $2,000 an acre, and I can like very conservatively sell it for $3,000 an acre, it usually, as long as there's not too much capex, you can usually jump on that. Right now, I'm trying to buy nothing. I'm not trying to buy anything that I can't almost double my value, force appreciation on it. That's hard to find. And you're going to make a ton of offers, right? Like you're going to make a ton of offers. You're going to talk to a ton of people, lots of stuff about that. But if you can do that, I mean, the sky's the limit for you, right? So
Nice. So
but like again, yeah, it is nervous, right? And there's a lot more paperwork and headache and all this other garbage, right? There is. But I actually feel better about it because I can look at my banker and he's like, ain't no way in hell, buddy. Or, the appraisal comes in and it's like, no, that ain't it either. Or like on this one, appraisal came in literally, it might have been a bad thing because I actually met with the appraiser when I was out there meeting with the power guy and the road guy. And we had talked about, anyway, and we met her and I was talking to her and she's like, well, what do you think this will be? And I was like, well, everything that we do, I think it's going to be $20,000 an acre, right? On the sell side, we're buying it for $8,500 an acre, right? On the buy side, plus minerals and things like that. Guess what the appraisal came in at? $20,000 an acre.
nice.
I told my banker that whenever the appraisal came in, he goes, I did not hear that story. Do not tell me anything about that. That has nothing to do with anything. But it was one of those deals when you've done it enough, you know what it's going to be, right? It's just reps when it comes to that stuff. But again, that's what I love about this. I was always a team sports guy. I was always that kind of guy, like always a team captain, always trying to bring other people up, always wanting to work together, because that's where I believe that human beings are most effective is when they're working together as a team, right? And so whenever I can do that, like this is my dream job. Like I'll do it till the day I die, right? That's what I always joke about. I'll be 84 and die on my desk looking at a deal, right? Because I really enjoy it, right? And it's not just for me, but it's also because I'm providing value to investors, providing value to surveyors, providing value to water well guys and the guys that are in the field. And you know what I mean? That's where it really fits me. Like I'm going to go look at a deal in Durango tomorrow, right? It's a $6 million deal. Could it be worth 14 million with a couple $1 million of capex? We're going to find out. Right. And so like, I'm going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive there, look at properties, come back, and then head back to Texas. But like, that's like living the dream to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's
You know
fantastic.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a lot of impact for a lot of different people involved, especially on these larger deals, like you mentioned, that you're working with a team. I mean, in so many different perspectives, it's a win-win for so many people.
yeah, that's what it's awesome, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
really awesome, and I can pay a lot of times I can pay market value or I can pay close to market value, right? So I'm not beating everybody down,
Right. So for those people that may be listening to this and are used to the model of buy cheap so you can sell it at or a little bit under market value, that's a different model, right? Like your model,
1,000,000%.
you are adding value. So you are forcing the value of the price per acre up because you are making the properties smaller, right?
A lot of times. Yep.
In the most basic terms.
Yep.
So can you talk to us? You mentioned leverage, you mentioned a banker on your team. How are
Yep.
you going about funding the majority of your deals? Are you using just bank money? Or are you also using private money or
Both.
how do you go about
Both. Yep. So a lot of what we do is we'll raise the down payment from private investors. We'll also raise capex from private investors, and then also the first year of payments from private investors. And so that's what we do, and we try to shoot way too high, even if it doesn't mean that the overall rate of return might not quite be as much, but we don't want to do capital calls. So we try to raise everything. We do annualized payments. That way, and the bank gets paid first, no matter what. We pay the bank off as fast as humanly possible. No distributions until the bank is paid off.
Got it. And so how do you go about raising private money? I imagine, you've got a pretty good network now.
Yeah.
But how did you build up, your network and raise private money?
I mean, Yeah, of course, my dad and uncle, but they didn't actually really, it helps whenever I can lean on them and their story, right? Like no lie, right? Like that's my competitive advantage. But also like I know the numbers, right? and the thing is guys, is you don't have to have a track record if you got a really good effing deal and you got a really good game plan and it makes sense. And here's another cool thing about that too, is whenever you're talking to your banker or your investors or whatever, like they're like, okay, this makes sense. These numbers are real. This is not some pie in the sky stuff, right? And when you show them that, and here's a big deal that I always like talking to people about is like, hey, what do you think of this deal? And then I'll always ask them, instead of asking them for the money, I'll be like, do you know anybody that'd be interested in this thing? And if it's that good a deal, they're going to say, I'm interested in that thing. Plus my uncle is too, plus my brother, right?
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with it, but you've got to know your stuff, right? That's where, again, whether you're flipping infill lots in Atlanta or one way or other, dude, you can find money. That's not it. If you got a good deal, who cares? Like you don't need any of your money, right? Like you don't. I mean, I always put my name on the loan and everything else like that, but like I'm trying to get out of that. I'm the guy that hustles. I'm the one that runs it. I do everything else like that. I deserve a much bigger chunk, and there's only so many that you can do, right? Whenever it's all on you, because unless someone on here knows somebody, there's no such thing as a non-recourse land loan.
Right.
If you can find one, I will pay you very large amounts of money and you can be my point person. So if you can do that, that'd be great. But like I said, that's what I like to talk to people about all the time is like, don't buy with your pocket, buy with your network. Right.
That's really good. I think I need that like embroidered on a pillow or something. That's really good. Can you say that one more time? Say that one
don't
more
buy,
time.
don't buy with your pocket, buy with your network. Right.
Yeah, that's
Because
fantastic.
we do worry about that all the time. And we're like, oh, well, I've only got 200 grand to my name and this is a multi-million-dollar deal, all this other stuff. Not if you put a team together, right? And here's the most important person on your entire team for what we do is your engineering or surveying team. If you talk to them, let them know that what you're doing, how you're doing it, things like this, especially if you can go to your county and talk to them, the county planning and zoning or maybe the county commissioners and be like, hey, can I see the last 3 or 4 subdivision plats that y'all have worked with? Look at the name on the bottom of that. They're the people that know and have gotten deals done through there.
Very
Then
good.
go call them and be like, hey, I'm Trevor. This is my plan. This is what we're looking for. I'd like to give you 3 or 4 of these a year. And after you do 1 or 2, all of a sudden, instead of them taking 6 weeks to do a deal with you, they'll go like, oh, for you, we'll be there in a week. Because they know you're going to feed them over and over and over again. And if you
Yeah.
can build a good relationship in that with those kind of people, you'll make millions and millions of dollars.
Love that. So good. So good, Trevor. So let me ask you, where do you see the market going now and what are you doing to like what's your plan to thrive in the upcoming market shift?
Yeah, it's definitely slowed down for sure. Especially the larger recreational deals, right? With the higher, that's just all there is to it, right? Like a guy that wants to use it for going hunting, a $400,000 track, we're going to probably hold on to one of these, even though it's a really good deal, really good spot. I mean, we'll probably hold on to it longer than we wanted to, just because the interest rates are going up. So there's 2 different ways that we're doing this, right? We're bringing it down. Our average price per track is coming down. Okay. 150, $200,000 lots is kind of what we're looking at. So it'll be more of the 10, 20, 30, 40 acre tracks, to be honest with you. Also, the reason we do that is because at that price point, if you can force that appreciation on it, is you can also potentially talk to note buyers as another disposition, right? So they can either use a bank or you can do an owner financing deal. And if you may only get 80 cents on the dollar, but if you force appreciation the way you need to, you can literally sell that note the day it closes.
Yeah. That's
So
great.
that allows you a couple of different ways, right, to do that. Also, what we're doing, and this is something that as soon as we get back this next week, that I'm meeting with a couple of guys that you familiar with barn dominiums, like the metal building houses and that they built out and all this other stuff. That's something that we're looking at doing on some of these smaller tracks, right? Making the improvements, because the ones with improvements sell like hotcakes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's what we're also looking at doing. And so that's what I'm trying to think right now is if I've got a couple of these guys, I'm gonna be like, listen, as long as it's within this much price, I will literally owner finance this piece of dirt to you, no money out of your pocket, Mr. Builder. You build the structure on it, and then whenever it sells, I get paid off.
Very good. Yeah.
That is the ultimate value to the builder and then also the buyer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really creative. I like that a lot. So are
It's
you
win-win, dude. Make everything win-win, man.
win?
It's
That's it.
weird.
You can make a lot of money when everyone wins.
Hell yeah.
So let me ask you, Trevor, exactly like when you're buying these properties, do you ever buy these properties on terms or is it usually always cash?
I have not done that. And here's the deal, right?
Yeah.
Because are you talking about like you would buy them owner finance, make the improvements, and then sell them owner finance on a wrap, or would you just sell them out cash wise?
Sure, either one. Either one. I mean,
Here's the thing about it. For
multiple.
cash wise, that's fine. If you're going to wrap it, I don't like the feeling for the landowner themselves are great, but the actual end buyer, if I default on my stuff, they default and it goes back, right? And so it actually puts the land end buyer at risk. And I know there's some people that teach this stuff. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Got it.
That's fine. You know, everybody else can do their deal. I am coming across more opportunities to do more joint venture stuff though. Right? You got the land, I've got the expertise. Let's partner. That's also going to be a very big part of the next 2 years for me.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I have not done that yet. I've got some folks, literally, we've got one just south of Fort Worth that I just talked to the broker again today. You know, it's a $3 million property. They are still asking too much for it, but you know, with better part of $1 million, it'll be worth 5 or 6 and it'll sell pretty quick in smaller tracks just because you're right in the path of progress in Fort Worth and things. And so great frontage, water, power, everything else like that. And so doing joint venture stuff, I think is where I'm really going to probably work more towards my business, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it certainly opens up that pipeline for sure.
Absolutely. Everything could then be a deal, right?
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
Because that's the only reason that this matters, right? Is because the delta, I can spend $150,000 on $1 million property and make it worth $2 million. You can spend $150,000 on a $400,000 house in Austin and make $600,000 and make 50 grand on the deal and be like, hey, that's a hell of a deal.
Right.
Right. It's not even close when it comes to true raw land.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that stuck out to me in just listening to you speak and also reading your bio is that you are working, pretty much on market deals, and that's sort of different from what we hear a lot of in the land space. We hear a lot of
Oh, you need to send text messages and letters and all that. You don't worry about it. No, you can't do anything on market.
So talk to us a little bit about what your process is
Yep.
for looking on market deals.
First of all, it's counties and areas I like, right? There has to be something going on there. Another big deal is also the requirements in that county. So starting to pay attention to all the rules and regs. And that's a double-edged sword, okay? Because the harder it is to do this stuff, the less competition.
Right.
The harder it is to do stuff, the bigger the effing headaches and the more money it's going to cost. But it can be a very, very good, like, competitive advantage if you have that team, the capital, and more importantly, the I don't know what the wherewithal to understand like some of these are going to be a bare knuckle fight to get this stuff done, right? Other places, and that's kind of where I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm actually kind of searching those places out more that are really hard to do, because not every realtor and agent can do that.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And the harder it is to do that, it means what? There's less inventory in that county, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that what I'm doing is actually like the what is it? The obstacle is the path, or whatever. You know, the obstacle is the way, right? Like that's kind of where I'm going, and I want to be within. You know, and again, this is different because we've done a lot of this stuff way far out. That's hunting properties, but now I want to be within an hour or so of some sort of metro, hour and a half. You know, another big fight, at least in Texas, water. It's got to have water. And if you can get on the TCEQ, talk to anybody there with waters, talk to water well guys, things like that. If it doesn't have water, abundant amount of water, I don't want to mess with it. It's going to turn into, it's going to be ugly, especially in the state of Texas. It's going to be real ugly.
Yeah. So, do you have a, like, let's say there's someone listening to this, they're brand new to larger acreage. Let's say that we have some
Yep.
experience doing infill lots, and that's good. But then they hear, oh my gosh, like there's an opportunity out there on market deals. And so, talk to us about how that person would get going in working these on market type leads.
The best way is, first of all, to understand your market, right? And that's going to be getting a hold of a lot of, and this is a lot what a lot of people don't think on so much, is like your real estate brokers that do a lot of land in those particular counties literally know more than anybody does, right? And I don't care what your Redfin data pulling, all this other stuff, right? It's BS. It's lagging indicators. They don't understand this stuff. You've got to build relationships with the guys and gals that make a living in dirt in the counties that you're interested in, right? So you need to call them. You need to start just introducing yourself and say, hey, man, looking for value add plays. I'm sure, you got a list of tons of guys that already buy this kind of stuff. I don't even need a real good deal. It's just, I've got a team together, right? I use so-and-so, just like we said, I use SKJ Engineering, right? They'll know who it is in those areas, right? This is who we use. This is the bank that I use, right? In these areas, like that's touch base, find a little regional bank and get to know the vice president or CEO. Don't go to Wells Fargo or Bank of America or any of that garbage. Do not do that. You want to walk into a lobby and they're like, oh, Trevor, right? Like that's what you want to be able to do. You start using those names, you drop those names, so you automatically have a little credibility, right, with those brokers. And then you're going to be like, listen, if I can give you 10 listings this next year, where are they and at what price point and what size? Because here's another thing. I have not done it as much, again, with the on market stuff. That's usually what I do. But now if you have a hard time finding stuff that's even on market, at least then you know where your market is, right? Then you can even just send neutral letters to people in the area, right? Or text message or whatever. Just be like, hey, I'd love to potentially buy your property, right? You don't have to lowball them, whatever. You can send them an offer 100% of market value, right? You're still going to get yelled at no matter what. This doesn't make any difference. People are pissed
That's
off
so
at work,
true.
right?
That is so true.
I've sent thousands of letters at 100% of market value, and they still. This one little old lady, she freaking button hooked me so bad. She was like, she left me a deal on Pat Live. Oh yeah, I'd like to talk to Trevor, and I call it. And she's like, oh, are you? And then she gave me a cussing that I have not ever received in my entire life. And I was just like, ooh.
You hit our buttons, Trevor.
I literally offered you like $200 more per acre than it was actually worth. But by God, I'm the asshole for sending anything. So I don't know, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you'll make
oh well.
people upset either way. So
Either way, but yeah, you got to lean on these guys and gals that are the professionals, because here's the thing about it. if you're going to build a two, three, four, five, $600,000 end product, you're going to use brokers to get it sold.
Sure.
Just
Absolutely.
like that, just like that deal we just talking about in College Station. A good buddy of mine that's kind of one of the top realtors in College Station there, and I made him drive his ass over there to look at it too. I was like, he's like, well, because he looked at it on Google Earth, and he's like, and he got out there, he's like, oh, this is way better. And we showed, and I was like, this is where I'm going to cut it. This is where we're going to do it. Things like this. And he was like, oh, okay. And we started. I was like, all right, are you excited about these listings? He's like, hell yeah. I was like, good. That's all I need to know, right? Because they'll let you know if they're not. And that's another thing too, whether that's something on market or off market. If you've got a good person, even if they don't have the listing, you can call them and be like, dude, this is what I'm thinking on this thing. Again, we talk about our network, right? Don't use it with a, don't buy with a pocketbook, buy with a netbook, right? Network. Those are the kind of relationships that'll feed you for a long time too, because sometimes they'll keep your ass out of a bind.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. So let's say that you mentioned earlier about it has to be a county that you like, that you've got some stuff going on. Talk to us a little bit more about how you select markets. How do you select your target market or a county that you want to look for these on market deals or send these neutral letters?
Uh, I almost always like, at least for me, it's always areas, and of course Texas is easy, right? This is a metro area. There's people moving to it, right? Like,
Right.
so I don't know if I was trying to, in Nebraska, I would still do the same thing, right? Because I'm trying to make unaffordable land affordable. And the best way to do that is 10, 20, 30 acre tracts, depending on where you're at, maybe 5 acre tracts, depending one way or other. I would still want to be where the jobs and where people are wanting to move, because where there's jobs, there's income, where there's income, there's ability to buy dirt.
Absolutely. So it's really just a fundamental of looking at where people are moving.
Supply and demand, baby. It's
Yeah,
weird,
that's it. There's
right?
no special formulas or magic equations or anything like that, right?
No, well, and the thing is whenever you talk to those brokers in that area and be like, listen, you just told me all this. Well, you send me all of the comps that have sold in the last 6 months, right? In that neck of the woods.
Right.
Both, and then that allows you to understand. Then what you can do is you can pin those, depending on where they're at in the county. Because I can say even my county that I live in, on the northwest side, it goes for $4,000 an acre. On the southeast side, it goes for 15 to $20,000 an acre, right? And there may be 12 miles difference, but it's different school districts, different socioeconomic areas. It's just the way it is. And so then once you dive into that, then once you have those reference points there, then you can kind of start working into, okay, do I want to make this more affordable stuff? Does this need to be in the hottest area? Then that's up to you. I can't tell you what that is, right? And maybe you're like, dude, this is perfect. It's got water. It's got 40 acres. I can turn them into 4 10s with a new survey, $3,000, and it's worth 200 grand more. That's what you can do. You don't have to buy these multi-million-dollar properties to force appreciation, right? Some of these deals that you just send out and, it's a 30 acre here or a 20 acre there or whatever, you may be able to, with literally, literally $4,000 in a survey, you can add tens of thousands of dollars in value.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really, really good. So when you're talking about on-market deals, it sounds like you're making connections with these brokers, these local
Yep.
brokers, and they are sending you deals. It's not like you're going on to the MLS and like spending time scrubbing, or is there a component to your
Dude, I don't have cool VAs. I don't have any cool programs. I don't have anything like that, right? Like I look again, the three pillars: access, water, power, right? Like if it's got those three, I'm interested in it. And if I can see the comps around it at whatever size that is, makes it that 50% or higher, I'm interested.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fantastic because, it sounds, again, I know that I sometimes have even experienced where like I want to make it a little bit more complicated than it is, but it's actually a pretty simple straightforward process. And so we get into trouble when we start trying to make it more complicated or trying to make things that are not deals into deals, right?
Year 2 and 3, I was spending hours and hours and hours on sending letters, and I would be like, and through core logic, looking at different phases of subdivisions and all this other stuff. And instead, I should just making damn offers and not worried about it.
There you go.
I've been there, right? Like we've all been there, right? And so I get it. I just do, right? Keep it simple. Just keep it simple, stupid.
That's it. So let me ask you, what would you consider to be, and you kind of just went over this, but what would you consider to be the most important needle moving actions that a new person can take daily if they want to thrive in this business, get going in this business?
Two things. Build your team, right? Surveyor, banker. Those are usually the main ones, right? Because everything, and brokers, right? Touch base with your brokers a bunch. And then 2, make freaking offers. You'd be amazed at what people will take. And even if they're asking too much, make an offer, send them your underwriter. This is why I made the offer this way. I bought 3 deals in the past year and a half or so. One was like 700,000, one was 500 something, and the other one was 300 and some odd thousand, all below ask price. You don't know. Sometimes those the ones that have been listed, they're too high. No one ever makes an offer. They're like, oh, that's way too high. Who gives a shit?
Are you doing initial underwriting on all of these deals, or is there like a quick temp check that you can send out? Like, let's say, I don't know, just picking a number, 50% of list price, just to see like what the temp is on that seller.
Yeah. Usually I know, like, if you're looking at those areas, right? Like we've already done the homework, right? We know, hey, the 10s are going to sell for 20 grand an acre. If I can find anything, close to $10,000 an acre or less, that's got some sort of water and power, I'm interested in making an offer.
Great. Yeah, that's really good.
And here's another thing too, guys, like, sacrifice the option money, right? Sacrifice the option money. If it means that, like now I'll send $22,000, $30,000 earnest money checks into title companies with a, with $2,000 or $3,000 option periods, just to be like, I'm serious. And here's another thing. When you're making those offers, if you can have that banker send you a approval letter, which just means, hey, and the thing is that they're not going to ever say, yes, we guarantee that we're going to buy this thing, but you can be like, yes, these guys are serious. We're, one way or other. It's a little 2 lines, right? Throw your earnest money, throw a grand or 2 of option money, give yourself a week, 2 weeks of due diligence. If you have to, you burn $2 grand and move on.
Got it.
Like, like make the damn offer.
Yeah, that's really good. And so whenever you make an offer, are you typically doing, because these are, on market deals, they are listings, are you making this on a trek through another broker? I mean, obviously you said you're a broker.
That's right. No, I make my own offers.
You make your own offers through.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if someone's not a broker though, they would need to get a broker and to be able to make these offers.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, no, not necessarily, because here's the thing about it. If the brokers, if you be like, that's the thing that you can do is like, I'll let you represent me. And so you get both sides. That's also a chance that a lot of people, hey, I'm not represented, right? If you don't have your license, say, hey, even from the get-go, I'm not represented. I'd love for you to get both sides. And then if he's good, be like, I would also give you the listings as well.
That's great.
So like they can make 6+ figures on just you that year.
You're incentivizing that agent. That's really, really good. That's fantastic.
And here's another thing too. Some of them you might be able to say, I would even allow broker participation. So what that means is he's going to get a slice of the deal if he brings you something off market, right? That's a good way for them to bring you a good deal whenever you say, not only am I going to do that, but I'll also allow you to participate, which means sometimes they may get a 5 to 10% override on an individual deal.
That's really good. Yeah. And it just makes it easy for them to want to be on your team and work with you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Win-win. It goes back to the win-win situation.
Weird. It's
Yeah.
weird.
So on these deals, typically, I know that every deal is a little bit different and unique. But is there an average of, how long your option period is? You mentioned a week or two earlier.
I usually do 10 days to 10 to 14 days.
Okay. And your closing period, you typically, your
45 days, 45, 60 days, whatever. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
When everything was crazy, it took so long to get an appraisal. It was like pulling teeth.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was
But
insane.
again, that's the nice thing about it. You're like, everyone knows this. The realtors know this. The banker, like they know that you're coming in. So you're going to make a, offer with a contract and, your third party financing addendum on the deal. And so I mean, if you can't figure it out right in 2 weeks, you don't need to be doing the deal either. And to be honest with you, if everything kind of goes to hell in a handbasket, you call your banker and be like, dude, this shit is not what I expected it to be. You don't want to buy this thing because you're the one actually buying it, mister. You know what I mean? And they won't finance you and you'll get out anyway. You'll still sacrifice your option money, but you'll get your EMD back.
Yep.
I don't make a habit of that, right?
Sure.
I have not had to do that. I've always closed everything. But just in case, right?
Yeah. So what are you finding is typical EMD on your deals? Do you do
1%.
1%?
Yep.
Excellent. So, we've talked about quite a few unconventional things in the land space that kind of goes against what most people are doing, which I absolutely love. But I do want to ask you, I do want to ask you the question, um, what's someone or what's something that not very many people are talking about in the land space that we should be talking about in the land space?
Well, at least in my niche, right, is how what you do with land right now will affect its usage forever. People do not understand that. And they chase yield and they chase percentages and they do all this other stuff and they rape and pillage the land. And I hate it. And that is the reason that all these new rules and regs are coming down all the time because they do a terrible job. They turn good country into garbage and it drives me insane.
That's really good. Well, I mean, when you have that perspective and you come from the place of like you want to be a good steward of the land, right?
Yep.
You're going to it just seems like you're just going to reap the benefits of that because it's the moral ethical thing to do.
I've had a county commissioner call me with a buyer for one of my subdivisions that I ran through for him. Right? Because he knows that we do good work.
Absolutely.
The brokers know that you do good work. The county judge knows that you do good work.
Right.
That's how you build a legacy. That's how you build a brand.
That's good.
And everyone always is looking right in front of their face.
That's
this
it.
This game is not that.
Yeah, legacy and brand. And you said this word earlier and I love it so much because it does sort of encapsulate what you just talked about is you called a piece of property or a listing project that you had a product. And that really is what it is. It's a product that you're putting on the market. And there are bad products and there are good products, right?
Yep.
So
And they all sell. They all sell. It's just
right.
at what price point and to what kind of buyer.
That's very good. That's really, really good. And so you mentioned you do work with brokers on the dispo side of these things. Is there any other type of dispo strategies that you like for your particular end buyer, or is it just get it listed on the MLS and it goes?
Yep. Absolutely. Hold their feet to the fire. Hold their feet to the fire. Make sure that they're following up, right? If it takes them 2 or 3 days to call you back, it takes a lot longer for them to call leads back. Fire their ass.
Quick.
Real quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Trevor, what would you consider to be your superpower?
I would say, I don't know if it's leadership, but maybe it's I don't know. I'm very, very good at building relationships because I'm extremely open and honest with my own, right? And that comes from sales. That comes from being captains of teams and all this other stuff. I think that's I can connect with damn near anybody because I genuinely care.
That's good. And I mean, especially in the approach that you take to business, the team building. I mean, it's a team. It's all a team effort, and it all comes down to relationships with people, definitely. And
Yep.
so, who would you say are your favorite? Are there any like entrepreneurs, business owners, influencers in the business space that you like to follow?
Man, that's another funny thing, right? Like you're talking about like over analyzing and things like this. A lot of this rah-rah bullshit is a little over the top. I've just about had enough of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah.
However, I will tell you this. My favorite book when it comes to business of all time is 10X. And it's by Grant Cardone, and it's only the first 6 little chapters, right? There's abundance of success, right? Don't be a little bitch. Like if you just read that over and over again, like man, I think that's my biggest deal. I don't know if I would actually like hanging out with a dude. I might. I don't know. I've
Right.
I've got I've got a couple very good friends and fraternity brothers that were all very successful. One's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame in the NFL. One's a big country singer. Two damn near billionaires in the oil business and things like that. That were all in my pledge class, right? And so that inspires me, but it also makes me feel kind of like crap sometimes because I'm like, man, no matter how good I do, it's not really that good. Uh, but yeah, like as far as like, and I need to do a better job of like, I've got the podcast, but like I need to do a better job of doing some stuff. I'm afraid that all these bits and bytes that we get all the time for every David Goggins, right? Who's, uh, he's an interesting fellow, right? He's overcome a lot, things like this. For every one of those guys, like there's 10,000 of us, just normal folks that are very passionate about what we're doing and can leave a lasting legacy. I'm for team regular guy that's doing irregular things, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be he or she or whatever. You don't have to be setting the world on fire. You just got to be given more of what I don't know. Maybe I think one of my favorite sayings in the entire world is is be the hero of your own story, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, doing that marathon in Leadville. Like I'm 6'1", 240, right? I'm not a distance runner. I'm a power lifter and crosser and all this other stuff. But I decided to sign up for that thing. And I almost quit twice. And it was snowing and sleeting and all this other stuff. But I was like, on that last climb, we're at mile 21, and we have one of the longest. We do have the longest climb. It's multiple mile climb, damn near straight up, and it's snowing sideways. And I want to quit. Literally 2 weeks ago, right? I was like, this is stupid. I'm just gonna walk downhill. But then I was like, no, if I can do this, I can raise $100 million. If I can do this, I can make all these offers. If I can do this, I can change and make sure that no other probants exchange time for money while I'm alive.
Yeah.
That's the whole being part of, being the hero of your own damn life, right? You don't need
Absolutely.
inspiration. You just need to get after it.
That's it. That's it.
And that's what's so cool is, and that's what the addicting part is, right? When you do it, when you actually act on it, don't read about it. When you actually make those offers, even if the damn broker laughs at you, oh well, who cares, right? Like
It.
get after it. Have like you've already pushed yourself beyond where you were, and you just keep expanding. And the cool thing is you never come back. You're a completely different human being. And it's addicting, is what it is.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing that I love so much about stretching your capacity and kind of growing that zone of genius, if you will, is it doesn't have to be like I need to climb Mount Everest. it can be super small little things, step by step, day by day, right? And so as long as you stretch just a little bit over time, that compound effect, you look back and you're like, dang, I'm the kind of guy, that went from not making offers to now I'm doing my first deal, or now I'm doing my
Yep.
first 10 deals, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And the thing is you realize like it's not the mechanics never change. It's you that changes, right? And
That's
that's empowering when you're talking about that, right? Like you're like me, by God, I'm sitting here listening to this podcast, whatever, or sitting here, I can do any of this stuff. It may take longer than I want it to be, but as long as I keep trucking forward, making the right kind of, team memberships, making the relationships, by God, I can do any of it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, what would you consider to be one of the biggest surprises you've had in your land career?
How the people that write the rules don't have a damn clue what they're doing.
That's good perspective.
Drives me
Yeah,
batshit crazy.
right, right. Yeah.
I think that has, I mean, literally with the engineer today, she's like, she has no idea what she's doing. She was talking about the gal that with the county, but she's just like making shit up. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah.
if you think about the government, you're like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense,
Yeah, I saw a meme the other day that said something like, we're all just kind of making it up as we go, right?
which
But
is cool, right? Like it's
yeah,
cool because you could anytime you want to, you could become a brand new human being. You can completely turn what you had differently. But when you're setting the rules for everybody else, please know what you're talking about, right? Like,
yes, yes.
but anyone who knows what they're talking about is not going to work for 40 grand a year and deal with all the headaches.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right. So, oh gosh, I could talk about that topic with you forever, but for the sake of time, I do have to push on. But I would like to know if you could go back and tell yourself three pieces of advice when you were a newbie, what would they
Yep.
be?
Don't be so smart would be the big one, right?
Mm,
Act, don't read, don't do this stuff because you'll learn a million times more by doing. Right? I mean, we all get to there, right? Analysis paralysis, that's just part of it. The next thing is you don't have to do it by yourself. This is a team sport. And then the third one would be invest in yourself, whether that is a coaching program, whether that is because I've got Bosch, Podolsky, I've got Land Academy. I got a bunch of them, right? And the same thing is like I went to Wholesaling Inc. deal in Arizona in April. I didn't learn anything from the individual speakers, but we had tons and tons of guys out on kind of in the back and talking all this other stuff. Had some like perspectives, and I'm just like, bam, holy crap. $1,500, that's going to make me millions of dollars over the next 20, 30 years, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
get in there. And then also, like I said, be part of groups, organizations, trainings, whatever it is. That's not an expense. That truly is an investment. I know that sounds cliche as hell, but it's the truth.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. I think that, for me, it was remarkable the amount of growth and perspective shift. And we were talking about that stretch earlier, just in how much your brain can stretch when you get into masterminds or get around other people that are doing 10x the things that you even dreamed of doing. And that immediately, I mean, it's like magic, right? Like talking in the back of the room with some of those people, that's when you really like see some incredible internal growth.
Well, and you also realize like, dude, they're just as full of shit as me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it brings a realness to it that you're just like, oh, okay, this dude, I can do it, right? Or
yeah.
this gal, I can do that too, right?
She's
I
human
have to
too.
pay. I have to pay the price, but I can do it. If they're
Yes,
there, I can be there.
absolutely. They're
Yeah,
human beings just like we are. Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. That's fantastic. So, I just want to thank you so much for giving to us today. You've been super generous with your time and your experience. How can we give back to you right now? What resources or connections are you looking for currently?
I mean, right now we're staying awful busy. If you've got anything, if you're in Texas or Oklahoma, things like that, like, oh, I mean, hell, we're eventually right now, Justin Sleva, who you had on the other day, and another buddy of mine, we've started a real estate fund. It's called Pasture Holdings,
Okay.
and that's going to be a big thing for us, that we want to bring capital to the marketplace and help more people do more deals. That's where we're at, but I'm not quite where we need to be there. But if you want to reach out to me, Trevor at Go West Lands, or, I mean, hell, I've got a podcast. They can, I leave my damn cell phone number all over the place. So I get text messages and phone calls all the time. But
Awesome.
it's when you love it, it's cool, man. And you build good relationships, and you never know when the deal of a lifetime is going to come through, and you can help somebody out. Like, I'm the ultimate abundance guy. I would much rather make 20% off of 100 big deals and meet and talk to really cool people all across this country than to do one or two deals in my backyard. And, it just, that's what lights me up, is helping folks out. So
I love that. So Trevor, you mentioned earlier that you're open to JV opportunities.
yeah,
So
for sure.
if someone comes across a deal, what's a quick little checklist that they need to go through before they say, okay, this may be a good Trevor deal that I can send his way?
Yep. Again, make sure it's got paved road access. It's got power somewhere on the property. It's got water somewhere near it. And then you've done at least enough homework to realize that the smaller tracks are going to be worth, anywhere the minimum of 50% improved value.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. It's been really fantastic. Fantastic questions. Excellent information there, Trevor. So thanks again. We look forward to seeing you all next week. Until then, be great. Have a great week, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. If you're interested in hearing from other 6- and 7-figure land flippers about how they've built and run their businesses, then check out my group, OnlyLandFans, where I do a live interview each week inside the group. You can grab that link at the description below. Until then, be great, have a great week, and catch you in the next one.